All right, a little review of the Back-Breakfall. I think we have a couple videos on it, but go over it again. Maybe we'll get better camera angles on it, and then give you some context for it, okay? The fall is going to utilize the same kazushi patterns, only towards the rear. So you have a back outward and a back inward kazushi pattern. It's going to follow the same rules of the X pattern going forward. So the extremities of the body, whatever that might be, but usually it's the head and the feet, they will go in different directions on the spiral, and the center of gravity will go in a third different direction. So that posture is entirely deconstructed. That's not going to change. Something that comes up in the Back-Breakfall is I want to touch upon here a little bit, is that you still have your tactical priorities. So the tactical priorities of extraction and then weapon deployment, those override whatever else you're going to do. And this is very unique to Aikido's throws. I don't want to say they're Aikido's throws, but mid-range grappling. Okay, Judo to me is close-range grappling. And Judo did have mid-range grappling, and in that sense, it's just like Aikido, okay? But something particular to mid-range grappling is that you try to throw them outside of weapon retention issue. That's usually about 4 feet, okay? So they shouldn't touch the ground until they're 4 feet away from you. Meaning you should not, all things being equal, throw them underneath you, okay? Because if you throw them underneath you, you're in weapon retention issue range, and that's not good. Or they can grab you and you can't extract yourself from the engagement, okay? So it's very important that we understand that in Nagewaza, whether it's forward or backwards, uke should not touch the ground in any way until about 4 feet from where you're at. Another factor should come in for why you're throwing them directly under you, okay? One, like I can't throw them 4 feet away from me. Or two, the terrain doesn't allow for it. Or I already have my weapon out. So if I have my weapon out and I throw them underneath me, I can use that weapon. If you are, for whatever reason, opting for or forced to opt for them being thrown under you and you don't have a weapon, you have to use your body weapons. So that would be your kicks and your stomps. That just goes right into that, okay? But nobody lands underneath you with you not doing anything. That's just crazy, okay? If we look at the Nage-uke relationship, we know that it's a 3-dimensional spiral through space. It's not going to change whether that's going forward or backwards, okay? We also know that the same line through here, which establishes that index line, that is what's going to mark where you use your X pattern, however it is, whether it's inward or outward, okay? That doesn't change. Because of this, if we look a certain way, we also know that the style of the ukemi, or the receptiveness of the ukemi, it has to fit the actual throwing geometry. So because we're using that spiral on an X, where in the end, the extremities of the posture, the head or the foot, and the line of gravity, the center of gravity, they are all thrown on different vectors of that spiral, we know that the head's gonna go one direction, the feet are gonna go another direction, and the center is gonna go another direction. We know that. We are not going to have all three things go in a single direction, which is very, very common when you watch everybody else's Back-Breakfall, or sometimes substitutable with the, what is it called? The backwards roll? Backwards roll. The Nage is always throwing on this line, and so someone can, I'll demonstrate the Back-Breakfall that works on this line, or the backwards roll, which we don't even do. We don't do the backwards roll. We don't train in the backwards roll. If I were to tell even Ronan, do a backwards roll, you'd be shocked that he can't do it. He would look like the biggest idiot, okay? Because we don't do it. We don't do it because this is never the throwing architecture. First and foremost, you won't be able to do a backwards roll with our throwing architecture. And also, it's just not good Zanshin, because sooner or later, you're going to be looking down, you're going to break eye contact with the Nage. That's always wrong. You're going to be looking the other way. It's also why we don't do the Donovan Wade lineage of Ukemi. They always look in the wrong way with the back of the head facing the Nage. That's just a no-no. All that is incorrect. But ultimately, you won't be able to take any Ukemi that is trying to be on a single line. That's not going to happen. That's just going to make sure you crash harder when you try to do that. All right, the last thing we have to go into in the Back-Breakfall is, because Uke always has a spinal displacement to our throwing architectures, and because we cannot contest and do a yin-yang or yang-yang clash there, because you can't do those things, even though Uke is going backwards, in air quotes here, the center of gravity must be going forward, must be going this way. And we deal with this contestation by turning this like we always do. So Uke is going to do something like this on the back outward, and something like this on the back inward, breakfall, okay? But there's always a forward inertia to Uke. That's always going to have the center up. Center is going to be made to go up. The center is not going to go backwards or down, which is what everyone does who tries to stay on a single line, whether they do the Back-Breakfall or the backwards roll. You cannot do a backwards roll unless your center goes backwards and down. But we're not going to let it go backwards and down. First, per prescription, you must spinally displace. And then secondly, we're going to Aiki seize your center to continue it going forward. You cannot do a backwards roll or the straight line Back-Breakfall, which I'll demonstrate now. You can say standing jump. We'll use this line. I don't know, which line do you think you can see the best on the mat? Through the camera. This one? Okay. So here we have this line on the mat made between the tatami. And it's very common that people want to do some judo variant, in my opinion, and it probably works on the throw where you throw people under you. But we just don't do it. So either your feet remain in place and you kind of squat down and your back goes back. They teach this at the Law Enforcement Academy. It makes me cringe all the time. So the idea is, I'll do it from the side maybe. Just to show what we're talking about. is they either squat down, back goes back, and they come back up or what have you, or go into the backwards roll. Sometimes there's a single foot, and very common that they go down. We'll do the two common things. So they might take a single foot back, and they might go on that heel, but a lot of times they use the instep, and they go back again. And they do the same thing. But if you pay attention, if that was my angle of attack as Nage, I'm throwing on this line, my head is on the line of attack, as you can. So I got pushed this way, and I would fall, and my head is on the line of attack. And the only thing that stopped me is my slapping, which you can't do in the street, it hurts like F, and my abdominal strength. Basically, the only thing stopping me from hitting my head is a yang-yang clash against the throwing architecture. So, usually, if she has a throwing architecture, just relax. And she's working on that line. She enters, and there's the throw, and then I get accelerated on the line, and then I do that maneuver, okay? That's not going to happen. If you look at certain things, her throw is just an acceleration rearward. So I'm not going to fight her. We will deal with that next. But as she goes like really fast, you can go fast and hard. Fast and hard. There was no reason why I couldn't run out of that. Which is what actually this is right. You accelerate Tristan backwards, and he's going to do that all day to you, right? He doesn't know any better. But a lot of people in the Federite world, they don't know better. They don't realize that's just not going to happen. Okay. So we have to do things differently so that they can't do that. And what allows me to do that, as she goes backwards, is that instead of being a good choreographed uke and doing that, I just keep my hip relationship, and I'm out. I have control whether I give up my hip or whether I don't. Well, that's not ukemi. I don't seek control. Okay? Whether I did that, I had control, or whether I do this, I have control. That's not ukemi. But in that, that's where you see somebody that can squat down. You bring their hips down, and then they squat. And they do the backwards roll or the break-fall. We're not going to do that, okay? So we have some things. We know I'm never going to throw back on that line because she can just walk back out of it. We also know that even her, on the same line, because I just push it into that back foot, she can be very strong. And not going to get it, okay? That takes too long. That's already not tactical. That's just bullshit, okay? So, we have to have the hips go forward. The hips have to go forward. I don't want to push her back onto her other foot this way. Then she got her hips back. So the hips go forward. I bring her around, and I now bring her this way. Hips go forward. I bring her around and I go this way. In which case, you can see she's not on the line. She's never going to be on the line, okay? And of course, I won't do it to her, but when all that's happening, when her body's going forward and then being turned and then being brought this way, we have the X pattern. Okay? So her body's coming forward, hips up. She's gonna go this way, and that's where, boom, we hit that bottom leg. So it's on this leg. I'm gonna hold her. Energy's going this way, and that's where I, boom, hit that leg. Okay? And there's no way, you just try to figure it out. Just go straight down. See how her butt has to lower, and then she goes back, and there she does that. There's just absolutely no way she could do that. You guys get that? There's no way, okay? So she can't do the backwards roll either. Her hips can't go back. They're not gonna be on a straight line, and you ain't lowering shit. Okay, make sense? Okay. So we have to learn this other roll. And that other roll also makes sense that even if you could do that other thing, it doesn't make sense that you leave your target, the head, which is the target of a throw to the back of the head is the target, that you would leave your head on the line of attack. That makes no sense. You're supposed to be doing a non-contesting art. How does that make sense? But it's everywhere, okay? So, let's get a curved pattern versus a straight pattern, okay? So I guess you said this line's the best, okay? And we have these very simple steps to get the curve. Is one, I'm on the balls of my feet, not the insteps. Never go on the instep. Every time we have broken a foot here, and we have, it's uke who could not get or did not get to their ball of their foot. They tried to use the instep. So I think we've had Taylor, Sean, and Ronan have all broken their feet for the instep. Am I right or no? Okay, he's nodding yes. Okay, so and Margaret too. Okay, so what? Okay, 4 times, or you're the 4th one? 4 times. Okay. So you cannot take the force of your body on your instep, which is why there's no sports where there's a secret instep technique. There's no basketball, right? I'm gonna do my fakie on my instep. No, it doesn't happen. There's no volleyball spike from the instep. You don't see it anywhere. It's biomechanically unsound to support the weight of the body. The ball of the foot works, okay? So we're always on the ball of the foot. And to learn this, we want to look at the shape. So this line is the line of attack. My center of gravity is going to be projected on the line of attack, okay? And you have to game the ultimate throwing pattern because there's so much centrifugal force and inertia not in the self-training, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to ignore what happens to the feet, because you don't get to choose what happens to the feet anyways, okay? We're really paying attention to where do my hips go and where does my head go. My hips, because that's the center of gravity, line of gravity. So as I do this on the line of attack, I'm going to go back, bring my head off the line of attack, allow my hips to stay on the line of attack. It looks like this. Some common mistakes, especially if you're coming from Federite stuff, is you'll let this turn in. This knee will turn in. And when it turns in, you have less deviation off the line of attack, and you get really close to staying on the line of attack. Okay, so when you take that first video and you're going to work through the progressions, make sure that you see a 90-degree deviation in your head in relation to the line of attack. That should be a minimum. So I'm going out this way. All right, we'll try that one. All right, as a fear response to actually being thrown for real, your uke is going to, you're going to have the bodily experience of get me the fuck out of this thing, okay? And that is why ukemi is part of the spiritual training, because you have to reconcile the fear of injury, the fear of death, the egocentricity that comes from your own body facing harm, okay? For example, here, we don't rank you. If you can't reconcile the fear of bodily harm, you're low on our student senpai kohai hierarchy, okay? Because ultimately, we're about, right, the training is about self-release. Well, you've proven you can't get to the most basic of self-release, which is release of the physical harm of the body, okay? There's harder things to release, right? Like the attachment to pleasure, the will to power. It's like you got no shot, okay? If the body's still fucking with you to that degree. So you'll watch how people will try to regain control of their center as they try to disengage from the technique. And it is it's more common on the back break fall than the front break fall. Because there's more sense of vulnerability to falling backwards than there is forward, which is why you see, like, you know, self-help groups today will have you fall backwards and you get your trust in your team building and all that bullshit, okay? There's just more fear to falling backwards. All right, so you have those progressions in the other video. And I just want to deal with what's most common. That's one of the things that's most common. And the first sign of it is that they'll start to turn that knee in because they want to lower themselves more. But they won't be able to in the technique. Now they can't train because they can't receive the technique. I had one great story from Chiba Sensei where he actually left our Kenshusei class out the back door, so we didn't even know he left. He just left the mat and said, if you cannot receive the technique, I cannot teach the technique. And then he was gone. And I think we were all waiting for him to come back, and finally someone went and looked and he was gone. He left the dojo. Okay, so very, very key. If you cannot receive the art, I cannot transmit the art. Okay. The next part where you see a breakdown is that, and it's fear related, as they try to regain control of their center, is they'll lose relationship between the extremities of the body. And so what I mean by that is, as they're falling backwards, they kind of break the posture that allows them to land safely. Okay, so you'll get things like they fall loose like that, okay? That's very dangerous. Adam, you were doing that a lot, but it's very common. You cannot disengage your internal organization when you take the ukemi. So you have to maintain organization for the internals throughout the fall. So some drills that we do that is we establish a relationship between the head and foot. If you maintain a relationship between the head and foot, then you're likely to be organized through the midsection, and thereby you're likely to land in a safer way without spinal injury or organ damage, okay? So one of the drills that we have for that is where I learn to tie together the foot and the head, and we're coming around like this. It doesn't do me any good if I do this drill like this. I lock my body in my organization and I do the drill. And you trade sides. So when the head goes down, the foot comes up, and vice versa. The next structural relationship that helps you keep safe for the impact on the mat is the pelvic tilt. It tends to go out of the tilt, again, because of the egocentricity, which brings a loss of awareness, and it starts to add towards the likelihood that you're segmented when you hit the mat, increasing the risk of spinal injury or organ injury, okay? So when you're in that final position, you're not here, but there is a tilting up of your pelvis, and the drill we have for that one is this drill. So I'm not moving my hands and feet, I'm tilting my pelvis to do that drill. With this in mind, you can see how I'm doing that in the later progressions. As I drop down, I'm in that same tucked pelvis, and there's a relationship between my head and foot from the very beginning. So as I go down, my head goes back, my leg will extend, and you're in this drill. Okay? So we're going to work from a standing progression down, making sure we have that pelvic tilt. We're not going to do those developmental drills where you roll around in a circle or just flex your pelvic tilt. We're going to work one of the progressions. Okay, try. Okay, so we have those progressions, and we also have these kind of body consciousness, body awareness drills. The one where you go around in a circle and the one where you flex. But you can see those that they're not right as you're instructing on them, okay? The next drill that we use is to take away or to acclimate the uke, to find the final progression in that sequence in that previous video, but not being in control of when and at what rate of energy, okay? So that's what we do now. So he has to get all the way to his final progression, and then we do something like this, okay? Maybe you have to come from the side. Okay, so to be clear, at some point he learned the progression where he steps back and he goes down. Okay, cool. I see a tilt, I see a head and foot relationship. Okay, and his head is 90 degrees to the line of attack. All right? We start having him bring it up to a jog on the zone. This is the other progression. He goes down, he does the same thing, okay? You can have a lot of people that can do that one because they're in control. That is why, okay? So we start to take some control away. And at first, it doesn't matter to what degree. They don't know the when or at what rate, and it could be very low, and you start to see technique fall apart. So all I do is push him into that fall. And he goes down. And you just keep doing that back and forth, you know. And as you're getting it and he gets there, you should be able to start shoving really hard. He has to be able to keep the form, okay? Anyone who breaks the structure and necessary organization there, you got to come back to the earlier progressions and get them to do that. However, you have to be realistic that the art is ultimately a spiritual art, one that requires the reconciliation of fear. And at a certain point, there's no biomechanical progression that's going to solve that. Okay? Meaning, some people will just not, you'll never be able to shove them hard, they're never going to get past it. It's not going to happen. Okay? Don't mistake this fear-oriented drill with those biomechanical progressions. Okay. The next one we want to do because you won't ever get to do this back break fall like he just did, where your foot gets to step down. I mean, that's like light training, right? Like, we're not trying to throw you. That's how you get to do that. Usually we do that for the uke who can't reconcile the fear. We let them do that, so we throw them for that. Okay, but you might have noticed that he was able to step back. The force was singular in its nature, had a single line of attack. I'm not sending the three aspects of posture in three different directions, okay? Nor am I kicking out, deconstructing his basic support. So we want to have some more drills that help someone get in the ballpark, okay, of where we're ultimately going. So the first drill is we'll give him back control, and we know that his center has to be forward. So we'll have him bend his forward, bring his center forward, and then on his own he will find the back foot. Okay, I'm going to do that again. Because in the other drills, he's able to step back. See, his center doesn't go forward, it goes down, and he goes on. So now we want his center to go forward. So he has to bring his center forward and then find the back foot. And we have them do that until they can get that. In this drill, it allows the scaredy cat uke to still have a lot of control, find the front foot, and also decide whether they want the foot to go first or the hand to go first. They usually pick the foot. So we're going to make more extreme how much hips are forward, and he now cannot step back into the front foot. He has to almost jump on it, but that's a bad understanding. It's more like a cat. You turn a cat upside down, the cat will find the floor and have their foot ready to go. So this is more like a foot finding drill, okay? So I will hold on to him and exaggerate how much his hips are going to come forward. So I'm holding him, and you really want their chest to be open. He gives me the weight. He's not holding himself. I'm holding him. And then he can pick which side he wants to go to, but on the next rep, he has to pick the other one. And you'll learn to find your foot and find what we call your inside hand, okay? And I just let go when I want. He has to find that foot. I'm not sure he found it on that one, did he? I'll watch this time. Maya, you come hold it, and I'm going to watch him. Good, he's finding it. Okay, let's do a few. And here's where that contracting center comes into play, because that's what the cat would do, is they're going to contract their center to find their feet. So he is bowing his center back, giving her the weight, but when he regains control of his body, which will be after the throwing apex, he's going to contract his center, like that one drill where you pull up the extremities, okay? He will contract that center, and that'll give him his back foot. So here we go. There you go. And see, he kind of floated for a second there, which is what you want to see. The more you contract the center, the more hang time you get, the more likely you can find that front foot. Okay, so we'll do it again. And likewise, the more he bows and gives his center, the more contraction he has, the more likely he can find that foot. But fear has to be reconciled to give your center to get a good contraction. You're going to hold me. Get ready, okay? So I give everything to her, go, and I don't want to do that. That would be incorrect. There was no contraction of my center when I'm doing that. I give her everything, and I contract at the end. So watch how low I am. Let me get there. I'm way here. That would be wrong. Hold on. Can you hold me, Taylor?
Yes, sir.
In this drill, I'll tell you when I'm done talking, okay? I get as low as I can, and then he can let go. And I have to contract. Then I have to find my inside hand. So I'm going to go to the right, and I have to get that and find it. All right, here we go. First, do what I did, wait. I want you to contract your way back up. You're going to contract. Contract. There you go. And again. Pelvis. That's better. So that's what you do when I let go. Okay? Let's try it. So do that first thing. Wait, I want you just to contract your center and come back up. Again. So you're doing crunches. Don't let go. I want you to feel it. So I'm here. I'm not going to go. I contract the center. I'm here. Boom. 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 So you see how my feet are mobile. Here. Boom. Give your center. Then he lets go. You kind of float for a second. Okay? Try it again. Let's just do that drill first. Give them your weight. Float, find your feet. Okay? Try it. You never put your weight on her hands. Hang there, hang there, hang there. And then use that weight better. Hang, 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 hang. Nope. Again, hang. And use the hang to get you up. Nope. Switch rolls. Good. Okay, go back to the next drill. So be in the next progression. So you got to find your foot. You can't leave your feet there and just find your hand. Good. And you see you're going to float for a while. Good. Good. All right, switch rolls. Okay, so you can't leave your feet there. Can't leave your feet there. Contract. You got to find your foot. Got to find your foot. Got to find your foot. All right, so you would work on that, and you keep working on that, right? And this is just a sign of one's fear reconciliation and body attachment. Okay, but you can move on to other things as you're training. So as I come around here, I don't want to start doing this kind of stuff. I can keep his hips, he's pushing for a prescription. I find him and I keep his hips going forward. You can do the technique with no entry if your uke cannot get it, okay? They're still getting something. They're still, for example, what are they getting? They're not in control. They feel a tiny bit of the vectoring of the head, the foot, and the center, okay? You can add a little more mass as you work on this thing. So I entered now, and I kind of have the vector of the X pattern, because now that I enter, this arm can more hit this way. You can't really hit that way with this one. You can't really come back this way. But once you bring your center in with the irimi, you can. But you can see I have not taken out his leg, okay? And the degree at which you challenge the uke is going to be related to how clean an X and how deep an X you have, okay? So meaning, if my uke just can't do it, then I could have entered this way. That's a shallower, less sharp X. If my uke can do it, I can enter, but I'm not on the right vector. I didn't take out the leg, okay? And then once your uke gets everything, that's where you take out the leg, okay? From the last progression to when you take the leg out, there's no biomechanical step to do it. You just have to have already the internal organization of your body, the physical coordination of the pelvic contraction once you're out of the throwing apex, and then the fear reconciliation that you're gonna find the mat on the end, okay? Sometimes they get their foot underneath them, and sometimes they don't, okay? It really has to do with how sharply the Nage was able to use their X pattern. Okay? There's no drill for that. It's totally a spiritual step that you have to make.